Hey, welcome everybody. I'm George from Epiphan, and I'm coming to you live. We are on Facebook, we're on YouTube, we're on LinkedIn. We're doing this as a multi-streamed event, and we're super excited to be here. We're going to be talking through the future of Pearl, some new integrations. We have a lot of exciting product news, and I'm going to be handing this off shortly to our team who is inside this building behind me. And this is ISE Europe. This is one of the biggest technology shows in the world, where there's a lot of really exciting announcements happening. So we've been getting a ton of people coming by our stand at the show, asking us about what we're up to. And this is our 15 or 20 minutes where we get to give it to you in a bit more of a rapid fire style event. We've got people inside, they're all queued up. And I'm really excited. I hope you're, if you want to stick around and ask questions after the show, we're going to do a bit of an after party where we just sit and talk and let you dive a little deeper into some of this technology we're going to talk about. So let me pass it off to Nick, who's in our booth right now.
Thanks, George. I'm here in the Epiphan booth, and the energy's palatable. It's a lot of excitement as we share the story of broadcast without barriers. And what does that mean here at Epiphan? Well, it means the ability to turn any space into a studio with our world-class Pearl production facility, as well as make every video an experience. Making video an experience is about branding, laying it out, switching, bringing people in from around the world, just as we're doing today. No better example of the power of Pearl and the Epiphan Media Engine than a recent case study we completed. Let's share it now. We'll hop in with our guests in a second.
Been a company that allowed you to work from anywhere and be your best from anywhere. And so video experience have been a game changer for us. As a leader of the business, you want to have a certain brand image, you want to be very professional and really showcase what we can do as a company.
There's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes to make sure that these events go off without a hitch. Epiphan Connect makes the broadcast and production experience much easier. It's a deep Teams integration that extracts the video and audio feeds from within a Teams meeting and pushes them to familiar live broadcasting tools. That means as a producer, you can focus more on the content that you're delivering. And for a participant, all you need to do is dial into a Teams meeting.
But it really was the Apollo moon landing that captured my imagination and made me start to dream about wanting to become an astronaut myself.
It really felt like you were watching a television show. It gave a little bit more production value. It really created that feel of something special, something better.
We received nothing but positive feedback about Epiphan Connect. Our viewers are able to connect with our message, and we're able to deliver messages with confidence.
One of my colleagues turned to me and said that was the best virtual event that he has attended at Microsoft. He didn't have the context of what was happening behind the scenes. He just experienced an amazing event, which was pretty cool.
Well, here I am now in the studio, joined by Brody Langley. Brody, welcome. Thanks for joining. Where are you joining us from today?
Thank you, Nick. It's a pleasure to be here. I am dialing in from Toronto, Ontario, in my home office.
Wow, so transcontinental production here. Pretty exciting stuff. Thank you for the case study. I don't want to repeat what we talked about there. I think it really does a nice job of explaining. But, what's it mean in the context of Microsoft and Teams to make every space a studio?
Well, it's a great question, Nick. So, at Microsoft, we build the tools that allow our customers to work from anywhere, whether that's at the office, from home like I am today, or while in transit. And when your job includes producing broadcast quality video, you need a solution that can give you the confidence to represent both yourself and your company or brand at a consistent, high quality standard. And what I really love most is that customers can actually leverage an existing investment in our over 500,000 Microsoft Teams rooms around the world. So that means they're able to leverage the quality video, audio, and internet connection that exists within a hub like that. And in my eyes, that's a real recipe for success for our customers, partners, and of course my peers here at Microsoft.
Well, it's a significant investment, and as you describe, it gives the confidence around the technology for those contributors, so they don't have to think about how they're going to contribute to the town hall or the broadcast. That gets me to the next point, which is about creating those experiences, and maybe help the audience understand how those experiences were enhanced through your eyes in that experience.
When in my experience and the experience of my peers in our all hands, which is where we produced this case study, from the viewer's perspective, they were able to enjoy a broadcast quality all hands, and that includes graphics and titling, quality video playback, and engaging on-screen animations and transitions with multiple presenters. This is all kind of contributed to a curated experience for my colleagues, regardless of, again, whether they were in the room with us, in one of our offices, or at home across the country.
Well, it is about that kind of engagement of the audience, not just the communication, but making sure that they're focused on the things we want them to be focused on. Okay, one final question for you. How does this all work? Help the audience understand what happens behind the scenes.
It's a funny question, Nick. And honestly, it just works. For me, I just joined a Teams meeting, and the person producing the event really just made me look great. It's literally as simple as that.
Well, that's the key. Make it easy on people so they can focus on their content, focus on their work, not making technology work. We'll get to the nuts and bolts later, but I really appreciate you joining all the way from home. And let's bring things local now. I'm joined here in the booth to talk about local connections, and Suso Carrillo from NDI. Thanks for joining today. Really appreciate your support.
Thank you so much for inviting me to this interview. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, so let's just jump right into it. One of the big enhancements that we're announcing this week is the inclusion of NDI HX in the Pearl family of products. This is, the latest of over 160 enhancements that continue to evolve that product with time. Simply put, what does NDI bring to the Pearl family for customers?
Well, what I think that brings is, connectivity with the whole NDI ecosystem. I think that in the case of Pearl, that's super important, to connect almost, every NDI camera device to the Pearl. We have a great ecosystem of cameras with different brands such as Canon, Lumens, Verdog, with a lot of different NDI HX stuff out there.
That's great. And fundamentally, NDI helps to remove those barriers of cabling that exist. The length of an HDMI cable or specialized SDI cables. And the lineup now supports on Pearl 2 6 NDI HX connections, 3 high definition NDI connections, including an outbound. Pearl Mini gets up to 2 NDI HX connections. So quite a few options for customers to connect those network-based cameras. Help our customers understand what's the difference between NDI, or this high bandwidth NDI versus NDI HX, and are they compatible with each other?
Yeah, well, they are actually complementary.
Okay.
It's not there's one versus another. No, it depends on your use, and it depends on your on the status of your network and how many signals you are going to deploy. So when it comes to NDI high bandwidth, you are going to get the biggest, the top quality from NDI. It's almost broadcast quality or something like that. The lowest latency, but it requires that you are plenty of bandwidth. That's why it is called NDI high bandwidth. Indeed, in the case of NDI HX, it's it allows to use H.264 and H.265 codecs, so you can compress the signal much more. In the case of NDI high bandwidth, the codec is SpeedHQ. It's a proprietary codec from NDI, so it's different. But allow you, when it comes to HX, allowing you to use H.264 and H.265, you can compress the signal a lot more. So it depends. If you don't have that quantity of bandwidth, or you don't need that super top quality, or you need a high density of signals, then HX is the option. If on the other side you need a 4K or somewhat, broadcast quality and that stuff, the lowest latency, you have plenty of bandwidth, then you can move to high bandwidth.
Well, that's great. So it's all about options and compatibility and bringing those cameras and devices into the ecosystem. I really appreciate you joining today. Any parting thoughts that you can share with customers that are watching?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Something that I love on the Pearl launch is that the upgrade is for free. So that's amazing, because that's actually is helping to not just to Epiphan, it's helping the whole NDI ecosystem, to deliver this kind of products and workflows. So thank you so much for that. It really amazed me.
Well, it's part of doing business with Epiphan that we continue to enhance our products over time, the latest and greatest standards, and NDI is certainly a great representation of that. So appreciate your continued support. Speaking of ecosystem, I want to take it over to a colleague to introduce an exciting new integration that we're announcing at the event. Julian, take it away.
So thanks, Nick. We're over here at the QSYS booth, really introducing, like Nick said, this new integration to bring greater capability for streaming and recording, and even more to our mutual customers in the QSYS ecosystem. So tell me, Emily, introduce us to QSYS a little bit and what's going on over here that makes this so exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. So QSYS is an audio, video, and control platform. We're built on standard IT infrastructure, and we're really focused on those high impact spaces and bringing these elevated experiences to end users. So that's all done in one software. QSYS also has plugins, so we have our third-party integrations, and that's kind of what we're talking about today.
So we've had a lot of those customers that share QSYS and Epiphan in the education space look for us to work together to really deliver a better lecture capture experience. But where else should these partners look to deploy this integration and this module?
Sure, yeah. I mean, you could think about it like corporate spaces where they're trying to do these high quality corporate events with their teams, because everyone's all spread out around the country. You could think about live events or houses of worship as well.
So I think those are, a lot of spaces where we both play nicely. But where exactly does the Epiphan Pearl product line kind of fit into the QSYS portfolio? So if you're coming from the QSYS side, where do you want to think about unlocking?
Yeah, so QSYS and Epiphan kind of work together natively, let's say. So we have USB or HDMI that comes in to Epiphan from QSYS peripherals to do video bridging and things like that. And then Epiphan has that extra layer of streaming up to, different cloud platforms and recording as well, where we don't necessarily fit in there. So that integration alone offers, a better experience and more capabilities. And then on top of that, we can also work with Epiphan to control whether, the stream has started or which stream has started and when and things like that.
So this really sounds like a lot of advanced and, really next level functionality we're bringing to our customers. Yeah. How do they deploy this? Is this going to be a challenge, or is it something they can do tomorrow?
It's something that is going to be very simple. We are currently working with Epiphan on the development of the plugin, and once the development is done, we'll be releasing the plugin to QSYS Designer, which is our software. It's a single software that controls QSYS. And once it's done, it'll be an asset manager under QSYS Designer. You'll be able to install that, put it in your design, put all those buttons and things, automate off of that, and put it onto a UCI, and it'll be a full solution with Epiphan.
So I think it's, we really thought this was a natural partnership where we can work together to really make that workflow streamlined and really bring video experiences and great video across the board to mutual customers. So we're really excited about this.
So are we.
Thanks so much, Julian. We really appreciate QSYS and having them be part of our portfolio and our ecosystem. Again, it's just another example of how the Pearl family continues to evolve with the Epiphan Media Engine at the core of that performance. Well, look, here we are 15 minutes into our launch event. We always want to be respectful of people's time. We had a chance to hear from Microsoft, NDI, and QSYS about further innovations on the product line. If you have to drop, we appreciate you joining. But what we're going to do now is taking in our remote producer, Dan Wallace, to show you exactly how we're producing this event in real time. Dan, thank you so much. Tell everybody where you're at and what you've got going there. Oh, you're muted, bud.
There we go. I'm about 6,000 kilometers away from you, Nick, and I'm a little bit jealous, although I'm living vicariously through you guys. You can see here I am in the outskirts of Ottawa, Canada, the snowy tundra. It's about -17 where I am. But nonetheless, I'm able to fully produce and mix this show from another continent, which I think is pretty cool. This is a pretty ambitious production that we have going. We've got like 11 cameras, over 30 layouts, so it's been kind of fun to take on the challenge of, being the remote producer on this production.
Probably the most ambitious aspect is to rely on trade show internet. But let's unpackage exactly how this is all working. Let's start with how we're acquiring signals and where people are coming from. Can you maybe share with the audience and give a sense of what this hybrid production looks like and kind of break it down for them?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll give you kind of like a peek behind the curtain here, but I'm just, working on my home office here, and I'm operating this entire production through a web browser. Let me throw up a screen share so I can show you in a little bit more detail. It all starts in Epiphan Cloud here, where I've got access to all my Pearl devices. So if I look here, I can see I've got Pearl 2 in the studio with you, Nick, and that's sending some camera sources from your studio into my production mix. And then from there, I also have Epiphan Connect. And with Epiphan Connect, I can run a Teams meeting as a back channel. So I have all of my remote participants in that Teams meeting, and then I can simply extract their ISOs using this very intuitive tool. And you see here I've got George Birchall from the intro. We don't need him anymore, so I can stop his stream. But I'll show you how easy it is to start a stream. Is really, you just click start, and then you can actually see all of your Epiphan devices, or you can choose a custom destination using SRT. In this case, I'm going to choose my ISC23 studio, and I have an input source in that studio mix for George's phone, which is where he connected from at the top of the show. I can choose some video quality settings. I can dial in my latency and things like that. And then I just click start, and you'll see the stream connects, and it's really as simple as that. So Epiphan Connect really leverages the ubiquity of Teams meetings, and it makes it easy for the guest too, which I really like.
Well, that's the first major enhancement in that media engine, is the ability to truly integrate remote contributors and make it easy on people. So if you're one of the tens of thousands of customers that have a Pearl device today, upgrade your firmware, you'll be able to natively kind of connect those remote contributors through Microsoft Teams. Let's talk next then about where that signal flows into the Pearl. Well, actually, I want to pause for a second, because there's some behind the scenes thing inside that Microsoft Teams that maybe folks aren't seeing, which really is around that return feed. So maybe give a sense of how you're giving me confidence in the studio so that I can see that production feedback out.
Yeah, absolutely. If I just scroll down here, you'll see in addition to my guests, I actually have a few other options here. So I've got a return feed, and I can actually take my fully mixed program and send it back into Teams so that my participants can see a return feed as a confidence monitor, so that they understand what's happening in the production in real time. And that return feed, you see here, we've got only 80 milliseconds of latency. So if I switch back to my other layout here, you might be able to see it. On my monitor in this area here, I've got my Teams call, I've got all my participants here, and I've just sort of pinned the return feed here. So I can see exactly what's happening in the production. My participants and guests can see exactly what's happening in the production, and it gives us all confidence that everything's working, and really just makes Teams a great experience for everyone.
And effectively what we're solving then with this is we're using Teams to solve the tricky part of communicating and giving people confidence when they're on air or off air, and allowing them to have more natural interactions with each other via Teams, while separately we're extracting a broadcast quality event. And that broadcast quality event's running through that Pearl device. Let's talk about some of the enhancements that make it a broadcast quality event. I just saw both of our names pop up as an example. How are you delivering titling, and talk about some of these new enhancements that are coming to the media engine and to the Pearl family?
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about that, because we have a lot of sort of more production focused features that customers have been asking for that are now starting to be realized. And I've seen the evolution of Pearl over the last 5 years, and it really has been incredible to see all of the new protocols that have been added, all of the convenient features that have been added just to make life a lot easier with the device. But in terms of like some powerful production features, one of the things we actually do have coming out very shortly is is web source inputs. Let me see if I can show you here. Behind the scenes, I've got Flowix, which is a graphics engine by VizRT. And I'm just using, I'm outputting this to an alpha channel to a web URL. And then I'm able to ingest that as an input with the Epiphan Media Engine. So I can bring it into a Pearl. I can, queue my graphics using Flowix or any other graphics tool that I want that has a web-based output. We've used Singular Live as well, which we're pretty fond of. But yeah, it just makes it super easy to sort of increase the production value of your program. And even on my end here, I've got like a Stream Deck. I don't know if you can see this, but I can queue all my graphics sources with this Stream Deck, and it just makes it really easy to increase the production value of my program.
Well, and it's another example of where we've instituted features that are also accepting of the fact that there are multiple tools to solve the problem, and giving a flexible way to approach it helps empower our customers in the ways that they work.
Yeah.
The next thing I wanted to highlight oh, sorry, Dan.
Oh, I was just going to say, one of the other things that I'm super excited about to see being realized is media playback. And you saw earlier in this show today, we had that nice case study video playing from Microsoft. That's playing through the Pearl system. So I can play back 4K quality videos as simple as importing a video file, an MP4, into a Pearl layout. And then when I switch to that layout, it cues the media playback. I can set it to loop infinitely. That's actually how I'm doing the motion backgrounds that you see in this production too, and I can even have some fun with that. Like if we wanted to try another motion background or some different colors, we can do things like that as well. All of this is because of media playback, so super powerful feature in Pearl and in the media engine, and I know our customers are going to love that.
Well, I think it's a slam dunk, and it's all about those better experiences, right? So I just want to highlight here now, we've got local video sources, whether traditional HDMI, SDI, or USB cameras. We've got local network video sources, whether NDI or SRT coming in. We're complementing those with rich 4K content, which people need to appreciate is actually very difficult historically to put into a live production unless you use yet another piece of hardware to play back into it. So we're doing that natively from that Pearl, and then also bringing in remote contributors through the convenience of Teams. So you're really dialing in 3 key areas of content that really create a world-class production.
Yeah, Nick, we've got so many ways to bring in sources into the Epiphan Media Engine, whether it's NDI, SRT, whether it's NDI HX or broadcast, SDI, HDMI. Use your video acronym of choice.
Pick your acronym, right?
You saw that shot I had.
And I'll say, one of the important things about those acronyms of choice, we kind of joke around about it, but there are constantly new protocols being released in the world. And just realize that when you partner with Epiphan, we continue to assess those. We continue to pick, important protocols that are coming. One of the things we promise to do is tease some roadmap things. An example of a protocol that's coming to Pearl this summer will be a multi-channel SRT, something that YouTube's supporting and that will allow you to create multilingual events and over a single stream that then can be selected by the user on YouTube. So that's an example of where we've identified a key protocol that's changing, and we're working right now in the background to implement that this summer, and it'll be something that we'll share the news with YouTube here soon. What's another exciting change that's coming to the product? So maybe a teaser for folks.
Let me think here. I don't know what all we can reveal. One of the things that I like is, well, we mentioned web source, we mentioned Epiphan Connect, NDI. I think all of this, just as a culmination, is creating that capability to really broadcast without barriers. Being able to just elevate your productions, use Pearl more as a production device or as a Swiss Army knife in your existing setup. There's just so many ways that really the only limitation now is your imagination of how you use the Epiphan Media Engine. And the thing I love about it the best is it just kind of works with everything. So if you have like a live events team, or if you're doing internal productions for your organization, there's just so much value that you can create with the Epiphan Media Engine, and really, creating an experience for your participants and your viewers.
Well, I'll tease one more. It's transitions. We're working on transitions. It'll be coming to the Pearl family here this summer, and we'll help to even dial up that production quality even further.
Yeah, that's super
cool.
cool.
Well, look, I think I was going to say, I think we've done a great job of showing people exactly how we've created this truly hybrid with local, capture devices paired to remote contributors via Microsoft Teams, injecting rich media, titling, graphics, you name it, and how we can create these better video experiences while enabling studios anywhere. So look, this last segment is simple. We want to hear from you. We want to give you a chance to ask questions and bring our expert extraordinaire, George Herbert, on the show. George, where are you joining us from today?
Hey, Nick. I'm in our head office in Ottawa, Canada, down the road from where Dan is, but I'm actually in our studio in the office instead of working from home today. And I've been monitoring all the chat, and there's been some great interaction here, people talking and asking some great stuff, and we want to get to all of those. But Nick, it sounds like ISE has been absolutely incredible so far, and this experience just sitting here has been incredible. So, what have some of the questions you've had just today?
Well, we've had a lot of folks coming in here, and I'll say it's been application focused. They're coming from universities and wanting to understand how they can do more than just run a PC application. How can they bring in multiple cameras? How they can be fully automated? How can they integrate it with control manufacturers? We've had a lot of folks wanting to understand the nuance of Connect. As an example, historical workflows require NDI to bring teams into a hybrid production. We don't rely on that. Maybe you can help contrast a bit about the difference between how Connect brings people into this versus the traditional way of doing it.
Yeah, no, and that's actually the perfect segue, Nick, because some of the questions we've had on LinkedIn, and everyone watching, I am looking at Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. So any questions you have about what we're doing today or about Epiphan in general or the Epiphan Media Engine, throw them at me. I love Q&A, so bring it in. But our good friend Patrick out in Seattle mentioned earlier, one of his questions were, kind of around what about other platforms? Because we've been talking about Teams and Epiphan Connect, since there's other platforms out there like Zoom, and apparently WebEx is starting to support NDI. And I think Nick's point there is really important. Epiphan Connect is using SRT. And the big advantage there is that we're not solely reliant on NDI as a local network standard. Like, NDI is awesome. It's amazing. It does incredible things. But when we're talking about a truly hybrid type production, like what we're doing right now, SRT gives us the advantage of a little bit more control through Epiphan Connect, but also decentralizes it so we can do it literally from anywhere. As Dan was highlighting, I can see the return feed of the program in front of me in the Teams meeting. That's an SRT stream coming back into Teams. Dan's in his home. I'm in the office. Nick's in Barcelona. Brody was in Toronto. This is incredible, the way that we can mix these things together. So I think to quickly answer Patrick's question, chance for other meeting platforms. Nick, I know that's something we've been evaluating. Is there anything we're prepared to announce right now?
Well, we're focused on unlocking the power of Microsoft Teams. There's over 500,000 Teams rooms that are ready to become studios. There's over 280 million users that use that tool every day. One of the things that we're also bringing is enhanced features around the way you can use Connect with a Meet Now function that'll be available in a couple weeks to make it even easier for you to log into Connect, set up a meeting, share that URL, and have anybody join through any of those devices. Anything beyond that, I'll say stay tuned. We continue to work in the background to always solve the challenges of this space.
Absolutely. And again, we partnered with Microsoft in this development, and they've been an amazing partner. Brody's just the tip of the iceberg in all of that in terms of how well this relationship has worked with Microsoft. And this new addition, as you just mentioned, of this kind of, Epiphan hosted way of doing it, so you don't have to worry about the IT infrastructure of your own Teams meetings to do this, gives you huge flexibility. So Patrick, I know you've looked at all this stuff. Come back to us. Let's chat again and look at how some of the things we're enhancing is going to help you guys. We do have a few other questions coming in. We had a few people on YouTube. One was commenting that the audio was a bit distracting, and that's a fair comment. And honestly, one of the biggest challenges of doing this type of production is Nick's on the show floor of ISE. There's 50,000 people in that show, and there's only so much you can do to try to isolate the audio. And honestly, our team has done an amazing job compared to what it's actually like there in person. But some of the other questions we got were from Mark asking if there were any plans to add Dante audio and video. We've been evaluating Dante for quite some time, and that's something we continue to look at. So all I can really say there is stay tuned, but there's exciting things happening in that world too.
Yeah, and I just encourage you to reach out to one of us and share your specific need around it, and let us understand the opportunity. We're always relying on feedback. George, your daytime job is to lead our world-class customer success team, and we really do take that input sincerely. And Dante is definitely on the roadmap. It's something that we're evaluating.
Absolutely.
I'll also say, by the way, about the audio, we're getting towards the end of the event here today, which they start doing their 30 minutes till close, happy hour on the mezzanine type messages. So unfortunately, we got caught in a couple of the PA announcements in here. But that's part of, again, just most people never do a live event from a trade show, but we want to push those boundaries, right? And that's part of our commitment to the industry, is to continue testing and trying new things.
Exactly, yeah. So we had a few other questions in here from YouTube. Fareed was asking, are the enhancements available to existing users as firmware upgrades? Yes. We mentioned that we're adding NDI 5 to the Pearl 2 and NDI HX to the Pearl Mini with an upcoming firmware update. That'll be version 4.18 coming very, very soon, so stay tuned for that. And that'll be a free firmware update for all existing Pearl 2 and Pearl Mini customers. So, if you have a need for NDI in those products, that enhancement is going to be there for you. So that's a great one. We had another one here, asking, let's see, there's a bunch. We got a lot of questions coming in now, which is great. And I'm looking at 3 different platforms, so you'll have to bear with me here while I dig through them all. But let's just see. Earlier on, we had Wasim asking, how was the Microsoft All Hands? What event platform were they using from that case study, Nick?
Sorry, what were they using?
Well, in the Microsoft case study, what event platform were they using for that all hands meeting that Connect was feeding?
Microsoft. So we were extracting out of Microsoft Teams. We were enhancing in Unify using Connect to bring those video signals over, and then we were pushing it back into a Microsoft Teams live event. And so the employees were engaging on their natural platform, but it was obviously a greatly enhanced kind of experience that they were getting out of it.
Right, exactly. And again, that's a great advantage of, when you take what Connect can do with SRT, bring it into whatever your production workflow that's SRT capable is. In the case of a Pearl or anything with the Epiphan Media Engine, we can then send it back out to whatever platform you want. And that could be Microsoft Teams live events over RTMPS. That could be Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn all at the same time, like we're doing right now. That's really the big advantage of bringing that all into powerful production tools.
Let's also not forget that you can record those ISO views as well. So for on-demand videos later. So we give people so much flexibility for the way they want to produce content.
Yeah. So we did get another question from YouTube here from Carrie, just asking, we mainly use Zoom, even though we use Teams in our office. We use Board Docs and Swagit for live streaming with the Pearl. Does this mean we would switch to Teams and it is more user-friendly? No, not necessarily. I think, when we look at mixing what you're currently doing with your Pearl versus what you could enhance with Epiphan Connect, Pearl products can ingest SRT inputs. So those could be coming from the SRT outputs of Epiphan Connect, meaning if you're having a Teams meeting with hybrid participants, bringing those individual participants into your Pearl, mixing that together with whatever you're doing locally, and then ultimately sending that out to your live streaming platforms from Pearl, really is just enhancing that hybrid production, which is exactly what that Microsoft case study was highlighting, is that, you know, there was an in-person element to that event. There were people remotely participating and viewing, and making it truly, truly hybrid, and making it also as beautiful as possible from a production standpoint. Because ultimately, we're all sick of looking at Teams and Zoom galleries. When we want to look at high quality content, that's not what we really want to see. We want to see a real broadcast quality production, and all the tools you just mentioned with Epiphan Connect can help deliver that hybrid broadcast. Jonathan was asking, could Epiphan Connect be used to host a multi-site corporate town hall, i.e. large groups of audience members in more than one location? Absolutely. You know, the big advantage here with Connect, again, is that any of your Microsoft Teams rooms or a Teams meeting or whatever it is becomes a studio. And we can do those extractions, as Dan was showing earlier, to be able to extract individual participants, bring that into your broadcast infrastructure, your mixing, switching, and everything else, and deliver that to maybe, you know, non-active participants. And that's a key thing with town halls, right? Like, we open up this giant meeting room in Teams or Zoom, but oftentimes 90% of the people there are not active participants in what's being said. They're just passive consumers of the information. Well, we can bring them a better quality representation of that content by, you know, extracting it and sending it out to a Microsoft Teams live event stream or a YouTube stream or something like that. So Connect can absolutely help us bridge these multiple sites together and create a beautiful town hall to deliver to everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing too, I'll just highlight in there is, for anybody that's ever operated this type of a machine, the ability to communicate, the ability for Dan to right now whisper in our ears and tell us hurry it up or move faster without actually being heard on the production feed helps us then stitch together these different locations. So when that question thinks about the idea of connecting different places, some of those places might be Teams rooms, some of those places might be physical Pearls, but that ability for this all to be communicated in real time, throughout that show without impacting the actual event itself. That's a nuance that I think is really important. It's something I heard recently at an industry event called Streaming Media West. You know, the number one complaint was we have difficulty communicating when we make the event hybrid in the way that we would when we were all co-located before, and they weren't able to solve that. I think Microsoft Teams provides that solution in that case.
Exactly. I'm going to shift over here and look at some of the questions and comments we were getting on LinkedIn. Our friend John Porterfield was chiming in saying, Flowix is great. That's awesome. He's really looking forward to the idea of multi-audio, multi-language SRT. He's really excited about that you mentioned earlier, Nick. So there's some great things happening there. Wasim was asking about NDI for Pearl Nano. That's not something we're releasing with this update. It's something we're always evaluating. We've spent years evaluating it on Pearl Mini before it was actually feasible. And NDI 5 really unlocked that. So, I can't say no, definitely, but it's certainly not in the immediate release plan, but those are always things we're evaluating.
The Pearl Mini supports 2 NDI HX, 2 USB, 2 HDMI, 1 SDI. It packs a powerful punch. It's really important that when we take a stance like this as a company, when we make enhancements to products that have been in the marketplace, we can't break the existing experience trying to service new functionality. And so we're always being shepherds to that. We want to make sure that we're protecting the functionality that exists, that so many of you rely on, while continuing to add enhancements to stay with the latest and greatest. And there's just constraints in that as we do it.
Exactly. I also had Guy Cochran commenting, congrats for successfully broadcasting from the show floor with contributors from all over the world. Love that you guys are eating your own dog food. Really great to see it all come together on the bleeding edge of tech. Yeah, that's what we're all
awesome.
about. I think, Nick, that's exactly what that broadcast without barriers mantra is all about, right?
Yeah, well, we try to live it. It's, a lot of people in the tech world like to talk about things. It's all about, slideware and showing pretty pictures. We're always trying to unveil that curtain, be really honest and transparent, progress the industry. And, not for nothing, we answer the phones. George, your team has just done such an incredible job working with customers of all walks of life, from house of worship, small businesses, enterprise, governments, higher education, lower education, you name it, right? And you guys do a great job helping customers really take the device and turn it into something, turn it into an experience. And I just want the folks that listen in to realize that, that's an important aspect of what Epiphan's about. And I just encourage all of you to continue to engage and to let us know how we can be better and continue to work with us as we define the future of video.
Yeah, exactly. So we have a couple more questions coming in on YouTube. One was, about the integration with Zoom, and we kind of touched on that earlier. We're looking at other platforms potentially to add to the Epiphan Connect ecosystem. Right now, focused on Microsoft Teams. The follow-up question to that was, when is media playback going to be available on Pearl 2, Pearl Mini, Pearl Nano? So it's currently available with our cloud offering with Unify. We are looking at adding it to Pearl 2, Pearl Mini, in a future firmware update. Not this next one being released, but potentially the one after that, which doesn't have an exact release date at the moment, but pretty soon. So that'll be very exciting as well, especially for those Pearl 2 customers who are looking at enhancing, their productions, like what we did today, playing that case study clip back. So stay tuned for that. As we get closer to those release dates, we'll have announcements for that. Let's see here. Got a few others. Someone's just commenting, we've been using Pearl Nanos for multi-location remote contribution, and it works great. Exactly. Pearl Nano's a perfect fit encoder for that kind of thing. And, if you think about it, what we're doing with SRT out of Epiphan Connect is kind of a similar concept, as sending SRT back and forth between Pearl Nanos. But sometimes hardware is the solution, so it's great to see that that's been working for you.
Well, I'll give another example also where Connect opens up new opportunities for folks that are still with us. In that case study that we did with Microsoft, we actually were using capture cards connected to broadcast quality cameras and then using Surface laptops as the encoders. Teams was the backhaul. We weren't using any Pearls in that production. We took the individual capture cards into laptops, up to Unify, enhanced, and then pushed it back into Microsoft. So let's not forget about the capture cards. And one of the exciting things about the capture cards, by the way, I should have led with this. Talk about burying the lead. Amateur hour here for you that are still with me. We've actually won significant awards for the AVIO Plus lineup. So the AVIO HD Plus and SDI Plus have won, I think, 2 awards now. We've won 2 awards for the Pearl family and also an award for Epiphan Connect. So it's really an honor to have the industry trade magazines who use independent juries to go out and validate the work that we're doing to really push the industry. And so we're bringing home some new hardware for your mantle there, George. Your wife will be so excited.
Exactly. No, it's always great to see that recognition from the industry. So we did have some other questions coming in, and this one's a pretty good one. Tom was just saying, am I the only one who isn't that impressed with the quality of the remote guests? You say it's coming in via SRT, but doesn't the video still come in via WebRTC first? So Connect is essentially pulling that data directly from, yeah, I mean, the Teams back end is where we're pulling the data from directly for SRT, right? So
that's what makes it unique.
Yeah. And I think for you, Nick, I think the biggest struggle is you're relying on arguably not great internet on the show floor, which is always an unpredictable element in these things.
Well, let's bring Dan back real quick. Dan, let's bring Connect up and let's let them see that we can actually see One of the powerful things in Connect is that the producer gets to see just how miserable the signal is. But what I really want to contrast here, and it's very important, this is a super common question. We're not relying on WebRTC. We're actually reaching into the Azure server, into the Teams meeting, and then we're transcoding it there into an SRT feed that we then pull out for the production tool. So we're actually doing all of that computation and calculation in the cloud. So that all happens up there. Where you're going to see the breakdown is if when the device is contributing a signal up to Teams into Azure, if that's a poor connection, which in this case now, Dan's highlighting a 18 frames per second, 640, 847 kilobits. Now look, we just got a bump. Those things will move around depending upon a lot of factors. And those are the things that while we can't control them, we do empower the producer to see exactly how it's working. And we can confidently say that you're going to get the best possible signal out of this tool by reaching into that cloud directly. The other thing is that you can anticipate this during your tech check. So when you bring people in, have them come in from the space the day before, you can come in and start to see exactly what they may or may not have. You can encourage people to maybe go into the office and join from the Teams room, but at least you're getting real-time data about what that quality, that signal looks like.
Yeah, exactly. And that sort of, I think, helps address some of the other, questions that were coming in. For example, there was a question here, does Connect support instant extraction of a participant when there are 500 in the Teams meeting and I want the person who is talking to come into their Pearl and then send it out over RTMP? And that's kind of exactly what Connect's all about, is you can choose the individual participants' video and audio you want to extract, and you're not going to be getting the 499 other people that are chattering in the background. And that's one of the
nuance there, though. I think the nuance there is actually the primary channel. So there's actually a specific channel you can choose inside Connect. In the scenario of 500 people, and let's say you're, whoever speaks or happens to come in and say something, you want to extract them. Again, Dan can pull up the Connect instance to show you, but there's a specific stream that you can select there that you're able called primary view. So whomever is speaking then owns that channel and is an SRT feed. So you can have the isolated feeds that George is describing, but then you can also have this primary speaker view, which means that if somebody happens to speak up or ask a question for Q&A, they then get the spotlight, they then own that SRT channel. Another nuance of kind of the way this bot works is that if one of you guys that are sitting in front of Microsoft Teams, since I don't have my keypad in front of me, was to select gallery view, where it takes the different participants inside of Teams and places them into a virtual environment, then inside of Connect, that view becomes available. This is another way that, let's say you had the 500 people on your call that you wanted to try to showcase maybe as a view back to your audience, the breadth of everybody joining the event. Now all of a sudden you can use that very specific AI-driven view that's created inside of Azure as another kind of enhancement to your event. And what I'll just suggest about that is that particular example that I just shared wasn't there in September. As Microsoft continues to make enhancements to the Teams infrastructure, as they continue to add additional features, we continue to discover those then in Azure, extract them, and make those available to you as a customer. So we're excited that as Microsoft continues to innovate and bring AI to this space, we're going to have an opportunity to then create that as a kind of extractable technology for those of you that leverage Connect.
Absolutely. And that kind of plays into, Keith was asking the question, how exactly is Dan, the producer, routing his crew audio back to Nick and the team? Again, this is where that advantage of what we're doing within a Teams meeting, extracting individual participants, means that in the right mode, in the right layout for Dan, when we're not extracting Dan's video and audio, he can talk to Nick and I, or to George Birchall, or to Brody when he was here. We hear it in the Teams meeting, but it doesn't go out to the program feed. That's one of the biggest strengths for me as someone who literally does this every single day, doing video productions here at Epiphan and using Connect. For me as a participant and as a presenter, that is 100% my favorite feature. Knowing that the producer can whisper in my ear and I know I don't have to do anything special. I don't need parallel equipment or gear. I'm just joining a Teams meeting. That's all I have to do, and it's all built in. That is wonderful.
Let's make it real, by the way. So when I was doing the interview with Suso here in the studio, Julian and Emily were getting set up at the QSYS booth. Dan actually prompted Julian that he asked him to switch sides, that they were standing on the opposite side of each other, asked him to switch sides so it would better align with his titling. Now I could hear that, but I know that that's not actually going into the live feed, so I just continue to do my engaging conversation with the guest that's here. So this is, again, solving that back channel communication. That's such an important nuance of actually delivering these events and giving those contributors the confidence to do it well. Dan, do you have anything to add to that?
I would just add that when you have remote contributors, oftentimes they don't have professional setups, right? They might be in their home office, they might be on the road, maybe it's a co-working space or something, right? Any way that you can make it easier for them is going to benefit your production, because you're thinking about content instead of, back-end technologies that are powering the content, right? So I would just say that for me, the biggest factor of Teams is just the confidence that I know my guest can join it successfully, whether it's through their laptop. You saw at the beginning of this show, we had some cell phones with pretty mediocre 4G connectivity, but we got the best available quality we could over their LTE connection. So for me, that's the biggest factor. Also, the back channel is nice. Sometimes you just need to, quickly say one thing to one of your participants. And because everything's isolated audio, you can make sure that as the producer, your voice is never in the production unless you want it to be.
Exactly.
So that's pretty huge.
Yeah. So shifting gears a little bit here, we had another question about how's the AV delay when using NDI HX or full bandwidth NDI when the audio is coming from an analog mixing desk. So it's going to be much lower latency using high bandwidth full NDI compared to HX, which is going to be a little higher latency over its stream. But on the Pearl products, all audio inputs have delay settings, which means you can make adjustments for plus minus depending on which is coming in first to correct that sync. Generally speaking, when we're bringing it in over NDI, whichever protocol, yes, it'll be a higher one on HX, but it's going to be pretty consistent. It shouldn't really drift around if we're talking about bringing in local signals. There's no extra congestion on the network, that sort of thing. So will there be a sync issue? Yes, but it's correctable. And with certainly with high bandwidth NDI, it's usually very small. So that's usually not too much of an issue.
I got one little request here. We have an interesting little debate happening in chat about your audio source, Nick. So some of the folks think we might have routed it improperly and that the audio is coming through the camera. I think the issue is that the show floor just got a lot louder right before we went live.
Oh, that's
crazy. Can you do me a favor? Can you just give me some mic taps so we can troubleshoot this with the guest? So just tap on your microphone a few times. So
there we go.
So and then just so everybody knows, the reason why I'm wearing this headset is this headset's connected via Bluetooth back to a NUC that's providing that Teams connection, right? So this is the way that I'm hearing everybody. Microphones going over into a mixing board and then into a Pearl 2, along with these two Z-Cam cameras.
Yeah. Let us know in chat. Ian, I see there, Sound for Pro. Maybe we'll hire you the next time we get a pro sound guy on this. We're not an AV production company. We're not a live events production company. We're a vendor. I'm the one-man band on this production. Probably, what is it saying there? Did I hear it well? There's a return feed possible. Yeah, there is a return feed.
Yes.
Hammond. Just to reiterate, if we had the full event production crew, we probably could have really honed in the compressor on our lav mics.
One of the things that's really important to understand too is this space is open. There's no roof over the top of it. So I'm getting all the sound of the trade show flooding in here. In fact, I'm straining my voice to make it loud enough probably to get over that ceiling. In the first segment, when I was joining via my iPhone, and I had a Logitech wireless zone headset on. Now, it does more active noise cancellation, so that might have had a very different sound profile to it. That was going back to my cell phone, which was connected to the same Wi-Fi in our booth that these devices are all running over as well. So it's very much us working with the tools we've got. I don't know of any companies that would take the risk of trying to do a live launch event from a trade show like this. But again, this is important to us. We're willing to take these risks because we want to test this and we want you guys to see what the real risks of it are.
Nick, can I just point to one thing you mentioned that I just wanted to highlight a little more, and that's you mentioned that there's some noise cancellation that comes in over Teams. Teams has some advantages, right? So you get noise cancellation, you get mix minus, you get blurry backgrounds if that's something you want for your guests. Some of those things that we sort of take for granted in video conferencing, low latency, those are some of the benefits of using a video conferencing platform as your video source aggregator, I guess you could call it. So just wanted to sort of highlight that you do get some of those ancillary benefits from bringing your contributors over Teams.
I'll add one more thing here real quick. If you haven't been to ISE before, it's an incredible event. A wide gamut of companies. Microsoft this morning was talking about AI impact, talking about the 500,000 Teams rooms, the 280 million users. I've also walked by a booth that's, promoting a 180 decibel loudspeaker, which I'm pretty sure they're playing in the background right now. So, this is definitely a pro AV event where people are showing all kinds of technologies, and we're certainly picking those up with our microphones. So, that's the authenticity of this whole thing for everybody.
Yeah, Nick, no, that's a great point, and it's one of the things that those of us who weren't lucky enough to travel to Spain this year to attend maybe have forgotten in the past nearly 3 years that, especially this time of day near the end of the show, the music comes up, everyone gets loud, people are serving drinks of all kinds in their booths. The party starts at this kind of late stage of the day, and it gets loud, but it's also what makes these shows so exciting. And it sounds like everything I'm hearing is that ISE 2023, really is a return to form. And our friends at PTZ Optics chimed in the chat earlier saying, how's the ISE team going and everything. It sounds like you guys are having a blast. You're having amazing conversations with customers. My guy over there, Ryan, in the booth is sending me feedback constantly of conversations he's having. And he says it's just absolutely blowing his mind what people are bringing to him. And that's exactly what these events are all about.
I can confirm, by the way, yesterday they said was the largest single day attendance they've ever had on the floor at ISE. Actually tomorrow we're going to host Michael Blackman, the CEO of ISE, along with Cindy Davis, who's the editor-in-chief of AV Technology. So, they'll be talking about this, but there's anticipation that this is a true return to pre-COVID. And I can just tell you from experience that this feels like 2018 levels. And it's really great to see that energy, to see the customers, to see kind of the folks coming back and really excited about the future and learning the new technologies that'll help empower that.
Yeah, we did get another question here, Noah, and Nick, I know we're about to wrap up here at the end of our hour, and you guys have got to go eat some delicious dinner, I'm sure, but we did get one last question from Hammond just asking, can I get a personal demo of Connect when asking for it? The answer is absolutely yes. Reach out to our team. We are always happy to give you demos and walkthroughs of any of our Epiphan products. You want to learn about Pearl? Our team will sit down and give you a demo. Unify that Dan's using to produce this, we'll give you a demo. And of course, Connect, we can give you access and demo for you to try it out for yourself and see how it works within your ecosystem. The proof is in the pudding, as they say, and we want to show you exactly that. So I think that's probably a good place to wrap it up. Wow, you guys are tucked into that bottle already, Nick. Holy.
Just to confirm, I'm in here working my ass off. The guys are all outside here drinking our special small batch bourbon that we got here from a distillery in Albany, New York. So we've got a bottle of 30 of 200 here. So they're putting a dent in it as you anticipated, and We're going to go
Awesome.
celebrate a little bit here and enjoy a great day. And thanks so much, guys, for joining. Dan, I just want to say, like, your effort on this whole thing, the Microsoft case study, the demos here, joining from like 2 o'clock in the morning. I was joking with somebody today when you were on really early from Ottawa. I was like, this is the benefit of you having a young child at home, that you're well versed in not getting sleep. So thank you for showing up and making this incredible. And I just really appreciate what a great day this has been. So thank you.
Yeah, this has been absolutely great. Nick, we'll let you go. Thanks so much for all of this and all your hard work over there. Dan, thank you for your hard work. Yeah, you've been on European time the past couple of days, so that's never fun back here in Canada. But we can just dream of all the sunshine those guys are getting, right? But I want to thank everybody for watching as well. There's been some great comments, great conversations, questions. This is awesome. And more things coming in. Frank saying he produced last week with Teams and a Pearl. It worked great. Thank you.
Awesome.
People saying this has been a great event. So this is wonderful. Never hesitate to reach out to us. You can always shoot us an email, jump on live chat on our website. We do all kinds of live streams here. We do bi-weekly webinars, bi-weekly live streams with our Live at Epiphan show. So be sure to like, follow, subscribe, and all these different social platforms. Today we live streamed on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube all at the same time without a single hiccup, I would argue, at least on the streaming front. Nick, you just got to go tell everyone to quiet down in the hallway.
Off my yard, damn kids.
Thanks, everyone. We will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys.